Hello guys and gals, and welcome to a different type of video. I should have probably labeled this, but well, it's too late for that, right? A lot of you actually liked the Metal Gear story video that I made, and to start off, I do want to apologize to anyone who expected Metal Gear Solid 5 and 4 to be in there. I did say it was the entire story, but I left those games out for personal reasons. And, well, one, because it's new, and let's be honest, giving out spoilers would probably have gotten me killed. No, it probably wouldn't, but in that video I mentioned other games in the franchise that weren't a part of the story, such as the video games I'm going to describe over here, and I decided I actually liked making that video so much that I might as well cover the two acid games in the franchise. So that's what this video is, and I do kind of like doing these videos in general, so I am really going to ask you guys to let me know in the comments what you thought of the video, and if you want to see more stuff like this. Just looking at other games, I don't want to, just label it as some kind of series. Just take a look at games, make videos out of them, whatever. But that set aside, we're here to take a look at Metal Gear Acid and Acid 2. Think of this as some pseudo-review, I guess. I just think it's a chance to talk about video games. And that's about it. So, with this incredibly awkward intro, let's dive into the Metal Gear Acid franchise. So, let me give you some story here. When I was a much younger boy, a younger lad, I often loved to read gaming magazines. I didn't have many, but whenever I got them, sometimes my parents would get me one or two, here and there, and I'd love to read them. One day I came across one such magazine that my parents had bought me. There were a couple PSM magazines, and inside them was a Metal Gear Acid article. And for the life of me, I actually cannot remember that PlayStation magazine exactly, the exact article, like the issue number or whatever, but I came across an article detailing Metal Gear Acid. Now, as a kid, I didn't really read the article as much as look at the screenshots and move on to the next page. So when I saw the screenshots for Metal Gear Acid, my jaw had dropped. A Metal Gear game for the PlayStation Portable, the hot new console, yes, hot with a W, the system that pretty much felt like the PlayStation 2 in your hand, and PRBS aside, it kinda did. It was a system that had 3 full Grand Theft Auto titles, a Kingdom Hearts title, and one of the biggest Metal Gear games in the franchise. Back in the day, I was shocked and I wanted this game along with the brand new PlayStation Portable. Well, I wouldn't get this until years later. Eventually, when Metal Gear Acid 2 had come out, I ended up getting a PSP and picked up Metal Gear Acid 2 alongside Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories. The whole night went like this. I took out the PSP, almost creamed when I saw the system, turned it on, set it up, and eventually stuck the Metal Gear Acid 2 UMD, remember those, the little tiny discs, into the PSP and started the game up. Well, a new game prompt had come up, and I made my save file, and I started the game and said, what the fuck? I won't lie, I hated it. I was expecting it to play like Metal Gear Solid 2, like the fucking screenshots made it out to be. Move with the thumbstick? But no, it turned out to be a turn-based... Okay, get this, hold on. Stealth action, turn-based, strategy, trading card game hybrid. I nearly cried that day. I totally got backhanded. And when I started to play a bit of it, I absolutely hated the title and was turned off. It's like waking up to a Care Bear beating the shit out of you in the morning while getting pissed on by Smurfs. Yeah, it's fucking jarring. So I stuck in Vice City Stories and had fun. So for weeks this UMD in its case was sitting on my desk, and I said, well, I spent money on it. Let me at least get past the tutorial segment. So I put it into my PlayStation Portable, and after giving it about a solid hour and a half, I was hooked. The game turned out to really blend the stealth action that I'd known to love in the series, and this turn-based card battling very well. Both games, turned out to be rather lengthy portable titles with a fair amount of replayability. There were tons of cards to collect, while most of them did one of a few things, a few such actions, such as healing, allowing you to move. Almost all of them allowed you to move, except for some cards. Some cards allow you to set some traps, and fire some different types of weapons. But even then, they still differentiated enough to the point that when coming across something new in the game, it was nice. You could acquire them by doing well in missions, collecting them in the field, or buying them in booster packs with points. It's weird. There were even some cards, especially in the second game, where they were special cards that allowed you to, do some special attacks that basically referenced multiple characters and events in the series, and they each came with like little mini movies that you could watch. In fact, there was one movie from Snatcher on the Sega CD. That was actually really interesting to see how far it was referencing. It was really, really sweet. So, moving on, the second game, I'm going to bring that game up into the gameplay debate over here. It played a lot like the Solid series in terms of stealth, how you moved. But instead of, moving around freeform, you actually used cards, and for any other action, you used cards as well. You only moved a few times a turn, and only for a few blocks, depending on how much the card would allow you. And if you were in any case detected, it would actually play out like the core games. For example, if a guard had seen you, they would start to call on the radio. You could interject, and, if things progressed and escalated, if a camera or a drone saw you, the 3 alert phases would present themselves, such as alert, evasion, and caution, each bringing the respective AI levels along, which was actually a really nice touch. I didn't expect the game to really go that in-depth into it. It played like a literal Metal Gear Solid game, except with tactical turn-based cards. It was weird, but once you got into the groove of it, it was kind of hard to put down. The first game played a lot like the second game, except instead of moving on the field, you actually planned it out before Snake, resembled your movements with his actions. Now, the graphics resembled Metal Gear Solid 2, both of the games. They had this really nice cel shading touch, and it was really pleasing to the eye. They really did use the PSP appropriately, and overall the games were nice, they were full of content, they had the classic Metal Gear boss battles, brought over this new gameplay hybrid, and after the initial jarring nature that I had experienced, it was actually a very refreshing experience. Now, as far as the story goes, I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version of both titles. The game puts you in the shoes of Solid Snake, led by characters who are all new and not related to the other games at all. You'll find out that 2 talking dolls, Elsie and Francis, okay, don't give me that fucking look. Just be glad this is a self-contained story. I know it's stupid. You'll find out Flight 326 is captured and hostages are taken and threats are given. The US government says, well, fuck that shit, and sends Snake to the Libido Physics and Chemistry Lab. Snake attempts to create a false identity here, but finds out he's already registered under the name of Hans Davis, and comes across his partner in the game called Taliko Friedman. That's one thing I have to mention. You actually do get an awesome female partner to control alongside Snake in these games, so you could do, combo thingies and stuff. So then Snake and CO are contacted by Gary, and are told that this is the facility that actually houses a new drug called Aqua, and a Metal Gear that turns out to be called Metal Gear Kadoke. As you can guess, you have to go through the game facing many twists and turns, and you actually face some really interesting bosses. One of them I actually have to mention by the name of La Clown. These bosses have interesting backstories, and compared to some of the core games, have interesting battle mechanics, and are actually really fun to face. Snake and Taliko eventually do stop the terrorists of Libido and escape, and it turns out to be Metal Gear Acid. That's it. It's a nice portable game. That's all it really was. It was a self-contained Metal Gear story, and it actually had the tropes of a Metal Gear Solid story present. And as nonsensical as it was, pretty nonsensical, it was nice. Then Metal Gear Acid 2 came out, and now we played as a clone to Metal Gear Acid Solid Snake. Get this, ladies and gentlemen, I am not dicking with you here. We are playing the clone of a clone. If the original clone is as fucked up as the games can make it out to be, could you imagine how fucked up this clone is? Well, we never see that in the game. It never progresses that far, but this time in Metal Gear Acid 2, we play as Snake. Clone Snake. I don't know. And before we begin, can I tell you that this came with the Solid Eye hardware? Let's take a step back and look at this. A reference to Metal Gear Solid 4's digital eye patch, this was a piece of folding cardboard you'd put over your PSP screen to play this game in 3D. But look at it. Who the fuck, and I mean who the fuck would play this game using this shit? There were some videos you could view with it, but even then, why would you when you could do it without the Solid Eye hardware? All you'd be really missing out is the 3D effect. And besides that, the game could retrieve photos from Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence, and you could view them in 3D with your Solid Eye. Anyways, the game takes place with Snake and a few other people headed back to the US illegally, but arrested by the FBI moments after. An agent who goes by the name Dalton gives Snake a deal if he wants freedom to do a mission for him, and Snake agrees. He infiltrates a facility called Saint Logic, working in military arms. Snake is tasked with locating a file, but as things get complicated, he gets locked into the building and must work his way through. Another individual by the name of General Wiseman shows up and takes over the operation and tells you that Dalton wasn't even an agent. You progress through the mission and come across your partner Venus, the other playable character in this game, you find out that Metal Gear Kadoke was retrieved after its destruction and brought back. Snake finds out he's a clone of Solid Snake somehow still, I don't get it. You find happenings of some messed up massacres and ops. You come across an interesting cast of bosses once again. Wow, the Acid series is really good there. My personal favorite in this game being Shagado. And as you progress through, you'll come across Metal Gear Chayoth HaKadesh. What the fuck happened in that board meeting? I don't know. You beat it, and it turns out Venus is a traitor, and she was meant to replace you. Of course, it isn't going to be like that. Obviously, you know, there are many different twists and turns, but I'll leave you to find that out if you so choose to play the game. So after this, get this, alright, you're here for a shocker. Wiseman. You know, General Wiseman? Yeah, he was a bad guy. Nah, this guy? Oh man, that's quite a shock. Not really. Snake fights Metal Gear Chow Garden again, and by this point the US military shows up. Snake tries to escape via the launch mechanism and almost ends up killing himself. He gets retrieved by Dalton, gets a new identity, his friends are free, and he gets $50 million. You know, all things considered, it went well. So that was the Metal Gear Acid games, and you know what, this obviously had to be a good run for the game franchise. They actually put a fair bit of love into this franchise, this little side series. Granted, there's no third game that's out, but these two definitely had love and care. Looking back at it, it's a spin-off the same way Metal Gear Rising is, and both of those games, they pull it off just fine. You know, Metal Gear Rising pulls off this amazing lightning-fast action series, and Metal Gear Acid can be very in-depth at times, and with a lot of style and flair, quite some thought was put into this game. Rather than, you know, pushing a game out onto the PSP, they took time to take the Metal Gear IP into a new direction with the spin-off. Truth be told, it must have been hard to pull off a stealth game in the tactical manner like this, especially when they were pre-planning it. And you know what, at the end of the day, when all things are considered, it's really done well. The story for both games is pretty fucking stupid, but it works in these games. You can pick this up and get into it, and as convoluted and weird as it is, it keeps you in and takes you on a journey that you may end up enjoying. And you know what, I think you will like it. I think you will find it enjoying if you can really put the time in for a strategy game, if that is your thing. Again, this game won't work for everyone. Don't take it that way. It can be very annoying at times, but that's just my view of the games and how I play them. You know, you might be different, you might really enjoy it, some people might really hate the gameplay. This is just how I personally view it after the time I've spent with it. Overall, both games have a ton of content. In fact, you can carry over elements from the first game to the second game via save transfer, which is cool. You know, I like to see games do that. It had hundreds of cards you could collect, it had tons of battle modes, extra unlockable content that you can easily extract hours of playtime out of, and that is a good thing. It keeps you interested, and for people who like strategy turn-based games, you might like it. In the end, would I recommend you go out and get the game, you know, like crazy? No, I probably wouldn't. Truth be told, there are other games on the PSP in a similar vein, you know, a genre you could get, that are much better. That's not to say this is bad. If you're a fan of Metal Gear or strategy gameplay, yeah, give it a try. You know, if you're a fan of Metal Gear, give it a shot. A lot of love and care went into this, and it's a gem for the PSP system. So if you find the games at a good price, get them. You know, I think they're even available digitally on the PS Vita or the original PSP device. So, you know, and I don't think they're too expensive actually, maybe like $9.99 or something. Good price for them. Get them if you want to try them. I do recommend them to you. You know, I'm just not saying go out of your way. There's still a lot of other better titles, you know, on the system that you can get, but this is not a bad one. It may not be the Metal Gear game I personally expected when I got it, but give it time, I came to see how fun and refreshing it was. In the end, this was a special video that I still haven't figured out what it is, rather than a video game video. I think it's just a video game video. I like to do videos like this, and I want to see if you all want me to do videos like this. Would you like this kind of stuff? That being said, you know, I hope you did enjoy this video. You know, I really do. I like making these kind of videos. They are fun. And that's about it. You know, I gotta end it over here. This is me, Mutahar, and if you like what you saw, then please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. Man, this is the most awkward extra ever. This is me, Mutahar, and I am out.